I'm curious if you two have ever dealt with any sort of infidelity. How do you rebuild the trust, confidence, etc.? I've been avoiding these types of questions just because it's not fun to talk about.
It's the most difficult thing I've ever had to deal with in my entire life. We had the advantage of getting divorced immediately after I found out about it and spending 3 years apart. The challenge I have for this individual is just I don't think you need to work on trusting your partner if they're giving you evidence that you should trust them, because you've chosen trust in this reconciliation. And the best way to live your life is to live as if you fully trust them, because that is what you will manifest.
I felt the weight of what you just said, that choice to I'm just going to trust you. Welcome back to the Medicine Podcast. My name is Mimi, and this is the Chase and Mimi Show on the Medicine Podcast. We really have two podcast names going, but it's the Chase and Mimi Show under the umbrella of the Medicine.
That's right.
This episode is brought to you by the new and improved Immune Intel AHCC. What is improved, you may ask? How could you possibly improve the world's most potent, amazing, sexy Immune Intel AHCC, this oh so potent immune support supplement? We switched from plastic to glass bottles, which may not sound like that big of a deal.
It's a wardrobe overhaul.
It is absolutely. It's our bottle had Clinton Kelly and Stacey London on what not to wear, and they're you got to get rid of the plastic.
Is that still a show?
Probably.
Wow.
On TLC. Oh man, I love that show. But yes, we did upgrade. It's now in a sexy amber glass bottle with a beautiful new label. We are super, super stoked about it. So it was actually a long time coming. It took a long time to figure out and to coordinate, which sounds kind of crazy, but here we are. Finally, we have the upgraded AHCC.
Gotta have it in your pantry.
I thought you were going to say pants.
And your pants.
Yes, absolutely. If you've never tried Immune Intel, it is the world's most clinically researched specialty immune supplement. And it's effective for all sorts of different things, from skin conditions to autoimmune to Lyme. A lot of people use it for cancer support. And they're going through treatment. HPV is a big one. And we use it for general health, just to get sick less. And that's probably the biggest thing that we hear from people that use it for just general health is I don't get sick anymore.
Yeah.
Which, holler.
It's one of those things that has so many benefits that it's just really hard to make a bite-sized clip to explain to people why it's so amazing. And even when you do, it's very science heavy, because there's just so much clinical research that supports it. But as we've dove in really deep into this space, the thing that I always come back to, which is just so cool, is this is a thoroughbred mushroom supplement.
Yeah.
So in Japan, there is this shiitake and very shiitake-like colony of mushrooms that have essentially been hybridized for decades at this point, that from this source alone provides AHCC the seemingly unlimited benefits, but obviously not, the many benefits that we get. This is everybody's had the experience of tasting a piece of fruit, or even a piece like a vegetable, like a carrot, from a incredibly grown and intellectually farmed process, versus just the store-bought version.
Yeah.
And that strawberry that's from a biodynamic farm, and it just tastes like God's gift to humanity. There's a mushroom version of the same thing. And when it comes to the immunomodulating benefits, the adaptogenic benefits that mushrooms offer, AHCC is really tapped into what I believe to be the most thoroughbred of species possible.
Absolutely. And we have an amazing review from one of our customers to reflect everything that you and I just said. This is from our friend Samantha. She says, AHCC is the one supplement I recommend to everyone, in all caps. From healing my high-risk HPV to clearing my cystic hormonal acne to healing my gut biome, it is a game changer in my life. Every person, no matter their ailments, can benefit from its power. My entire family now takes AHCC. It has helped my husband with chronic psoriasis, my grandfather come out of a coma,
Damn.
and my brother heal from a TBI, traumatic brain injury. It's a silent supporter of your body, increasing the number of NK cells. When I run out of a bottle, I feel it. My body craves it. If you're looking for something to change your life and help your body heal itself, this is definitely the place to start.
Great review, Samantha.
Honestly, like one of the best reviews that
thank you.
we've ever had. Thank you, Samantha, so much. Honestly, like these reviews do make a difference because we can, talk about our product all day long till we're blue in the face, but hearing from other people who have no bias in it or whatever, is really heartwarming. So thank you to Samantha and all of our customers.
If you want to try Immune Intel AHCC, you can go to themedicine.com, navigate towards our store, and you will see AHCC for a one-time purchase at $92 or subscription for $89. And our MushyLove Latte is there as well. You can buy them both in a bundle and get extra savings. And so check it out. You can always use the code MEDICINE, MEDICIN, for a discount on our website.
Newsflash. We're over politics.
Oh my God. We're sitting here at the end of October. And for me, it's like, we've been doing this dance for what seems like over a year.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And it's taken a lot of very,
Remember when Biden was in the race?
Right. Very, very soap opera like twists and turns. And it is entertaining. I mean, we did a political podcast. We talked about the fact that we were supporting Robert F. Kennedy Jr., which has taken its own turn as he's joined the Trump-Vance campaign. But like, holy shit, I'm like, nothing's going to change my mind at this point.
Yeah. I'm
just like completely desensitized to anything and everything. And it's like, I've already voted. I don't feel good about anything. I'm done listening to it. I'm done hearing about it. Can we just move on? Yeah.
And both candidates are like pulling out the big guns. Like yesterday I saw a video of Kamala, comparing Trump to Hitler and talking about how he's going to use the military to, for his own means or whatever. And, be his personal military slave or something. And I was just like, what?
It's just so wild.
It's just wild. And then, Trump is going on Joe Rogan tomorrow, apparently. Just like both candidates just pulling no punches. I'm extremely over it. I don't know if there's a person in the US at this point who's still teetering, wondering who they're going to vote for. 14 days out or whatever it is. I don't think anyone's still on the fence. Are we?
But what blows my mind is the amount of people that are so goddamn gung-ho about their candidate. Mm-hmm. Really? You're that stoked about either one of these folks?
I was pretty gung-ho about RFK.
Yes, and because he was a breath of fresh air, right? And I still really, really support that guy, despite, some of the, what I don't believe are completely legitimate accusations, but pertaining to his sexting affair that he had with some reporter.
We're never going to know completely. And so I'm just like, you know what? People are going to say and do anything. Is it true? I don't know, maybe. But since we're never literally going to know about those types of personal issues, unless someone were to produce very strong evidence or for him to say, yeah, it's true. I'm just over the freaking gossip and all that stuff.
Humanity has such a savior complex. We've been conditioned to believe that there's a white and shining armor that's going to come and save us. And it's not true. Yeah. It's the biggest myth. And if there is going to be, sure as hell isn't coming down the politics pipeline. Definitely not going to be someone who's political. And
it's going to be Jesus.
Right. The second coming of Christ. We're still waiting on that one. Anyway, we're back on the Chasing Mimi show. We call this our little meal, if you will, of relationship Q&A, pulling on the wisdom that we've accumulated over the years through our own experience, having been childhood sweethearts, married young, divorced young, reconciled in our late 20s, and remarried here just in the last year. We've had the fortune of interacting with some really incredible people along the way. both between our podcast and the folks that we've been able to interview, as well as just mentors directly that we've worked with in a mentor-mentee dynamic, and have just some incredible relationships in our life that we get to look up to. And so we do our best to share little nuggets of wisdom with the specific questions that we get, which have really turned into a long list of questions and curiosity. So thank you to our listeners. But before we get there, we start with segments, and we call them appetizers to the meal that is relationship questions. And it is with that we'll get going with a few segments that are appetizers. We call this one Shit I've Been On Lately, dog. What kind of shit have you been on, babe?
Well, I go through like cycles
of shit.
I go through cycles of shit I'm on, for sure. And especially as it pertains to what I'm listening to. Sometimes it's an audiobook. Sometimes it's a, spiritual self-growth, self-evolution, self-development podcast. A lot of, I've done a lot of like birth and pregnancy education stuff lately. And right now I'm on a kick of this true crime podcast.
Oh, you're such a white girl.
I know. And I'm drinking pumpkin spice latte.
Oh,
no, I'm not. I'm drinking King coffee. But yeah, I don't know. There's something about this. I'm not a, junkie by any means, true crime junkie. I know there's definitely people like that. But I was just searching on Reddit, like what are some underrated, really good true crime podcasts, and found a few. And I've been listening to the last couple of weeks. It's called Up and Vanished. And there's like 4 seasons. And each season has, 20 different episodes or more. And so I've worked through a few different seasons, but it's basically this investigative journalist who's actually a filmmaker. He kind of just like jumped into podcasting, but his name's Payne Lindsay, and he investigates people who have gone missing, and he goes to the scene of the crime. He interviews people. He puts facts together, and like I'm listening to season 1 right now, and his investigation led to an arrest on a case where it was a cold case. It was like had been cold for like 10 years. And so he like reopened it, and the attention that he was giving it made people like come forward and tell their story, and it led to an arrest. And so, just props to him, because that's no small feat, and it seems really hard to do, but it's a really good true crime podcast.
Did you say his first name was Payne?
Payne, Payne.
Nice.
Payne. Yeah, sounds menacing, but seems like a nice guy. So yeah, check it out. Up and Vanished.
Fun.
So far, the seasons that are my favorite are 1 and 4. So, and 4 is like ongoing. It's not like tied in a nice bow, but 1 you do like get to a resolution.
There's something about whether it's true crime or like a good fictional crime detective story that just like deeply resonates with the human spirit. I don't know why.
There's so much involved. There's so much involved in a true crime story, or what you just said. Especially for women, I think that there is something where we want to understand like danger. Like we need to know what the danger is around us, and what are the possibilities. I think it's just, maybe that's why women are more.
Maybe it's a kink.
I don't think so.
Danger kink?
No, I think it's like, how are men hurting other women?
And you just want to know.
Yeah, I don't know. And I think there's also like a fair bit of like, psychology involved, like understanding that's my thing. Is crime, like crime psychology.
I'm deeply curious as to why people do the things they do in general. And then you get somebody who's a serial killer, and weirdly enough, you're like,
what in your life led to this?
What is going on? Yeah.
So there's a lot, but it's a good one. Check it out. Up and Vanished.
Very cool.
What about you? What shit you been on lately?
As you've said, I love tuna now, which is not true. I don't love tuna. I don't love fish necessarily, even though I know it's good for you, and I eat it all the time because of the fact that it's good for you. I am currently on like a week-long, what's called like a dieta. It's a specific diet prior to like a spiritual ceremony where you are intentionally trying to avoid more energetically dense food, namely meat, heavy spices, There's a few other things you're supposed to avoid as well that I think were outside of my, a bunch of processed food and shit food, which wasn't a challenge for me. And so fish, eggs, vegetables, fruit is generally what the diet includes. And that's to keep yourself relatively light spiritually. So you're not bringing like the karma of an animal that's been, farmed or injured in despair and then died and used for whatever grocery store ground burger. And so I'm doing that next week. I'm actually headed to Mount Shasta, Northern California. It's a very trippy location, said to be a vortex or have vortexes, and doing a men's group. It's not a men's group necessarily, but it's predominantly men through Jason Picard, who's been on the show like 5 times. I participated in his community last year called the Abundance Archetype, and which he's continued to do. I have not signed up for year 2, but I'm part of the community at large, and they have opened up this event for some of the folks who've been involved, and so I'm taking part for a week. And there's a host of different things: sweat lodges, drum circles, some ceremonial components with some plant allies, if you will. And then a couple other familiar faces that people may recognize if they've been listening to the medicine for a long time. The essential oil wizard's coming. So
nice.
Dr. Nick Berry's coming. He's going to do an essential oil ceremony.
Our friend Steve Panico.
Yeah, our friend Steve Panico and his wife Marina, and then a couple other folks that I've known through Jason or through Paul that I'll get to meet for the first time. And so it'll be a really fun week. It's intense stuff, but I'm ready for it, and I'm geared up for it. Definitely plan to spend a lot of my psychic energy and emotional energy in the mental space of fatherhood, and maybe even connecting or trying to connect with the soul of my child. And so we'll see what happens, and I'll report back.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear about it. Obviously, I'm not going.
The point that I'm trying to make is that I've been eating tuna. Now that I'm coming back to that, I've been eating tuna and actually found a way, now that I'm remembering what the point of me even just talking has been, I found a way to like tuna. So I don't love tuna. I don't love fish. But I have been putting canned tuna in a relatively high protein, low calorie snack, or what I'm doing
like
is
a tuna salad.
Eating lunch. And it's tuna salad. And instead of using a bunch of mayo, I use low-fat Greek yogurt. Use about a cup of low-fat Greek yogurt. Squeeze a full lemon. A couple
cucumber.
About half a cucumber diced. About 3 pickles diced. A bunch of dill. About 2 tablespoons full of Dijon mustard. Celery stalks. About 2 celery stalks chopped up. I use a ton of seasoning. I use like a tzatziki seasoning, and then a bunch of salt. I don't think I'm missing anything else. 4 cans of tuna. They're about 5-ounce cans. So, and that's essentially it. I don't think I missed anything there. You just stir it all up.
It's really good. I can vouch for it. It's he was like, try it and see what else I need to add. And I was like, nothing.
So really good. You get some crackers or like some, gluten-free or organic little chips, and it's really nice. Yeah. So I've been on that tuna game.
I'm excited for this event, for this get together for you. I'm obviously not going. Sweat lodges and drum circle. Drum circle would probably be fine, but they can be intense. Like they can be for sure psychedelic. Yeah. And then journeys and stuff is not really recommended for pregnant women.
Yeah, Mount Shasta is a very trippy, like lots of UFO sightings, lots of paranormal activity, and so I'm definitely with the right group because they're pretty esoteric, even more so than myself, and so I'll be putting on my my cape of wizardry.
Nice. I'm also just, when you proposed, going to this, I was excited for you to like have your own like solo man experience.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good for relationships to have that.
I think, and we're going to get into it a little bit later on in the episode, but I just think it's important to have individual experiences where you're not tied to your partner for everything that you do in life. But yeah, awesome.
All right. Next, we've got the clip of the week. It doesn't always have to be a clip like in this case today, but it might be a recipe. It might be a tip. It's something that we took a bite out of as it pertains to internet content made by usually some of our favorite teachers or creators, whether we know them or not. Oftentimes they're friends. But today we've got a little snippet from Instagram, specifically the account Self-Work Co. At Self-Work Co. on Instagram. Thank you at Self-Work Co.
Yeah, I think it's a great post. Let me find it here. Yes, this is at Self-Work Co. She has like 380,000 followers and really simple concepts, but really profound content here. And this is a post that she titled 4 Reasons We Fall Out of Love. And we're going to go through these and give our own commentary and, see if we agree or disagree. It says, 4 reasons we fall out of love and ways to keep it alive. Number 1, lack of novelty. This is a big one. Big one meaning one we've talked about a lot before. Most relationships need excitement, change, and new experiences as much as they need stability, loyalty, and certainty. When novelty fades, it may leave people feeling bored or empty and seeking new experiences.
I mean, one of the things that I've learned in life about myself, and I think this pertains to most human beings, it's just on a spectrum, is this relationship between routine, ritual, and novelty, newness. And for each person, it's going to be a little bit different. More routine, more ritual, more consistency, you might thrive with just a smaller dose of novelty and risk and newness. And it might be the other way around for other people. But I don't think that there's anybody that's going to thrive with an overwhelming amount of one or the other. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot of times in the world that we live in where you're sort of, especially when you get to adulthood, your calendar is everything, your work schedule, your kids, your routines, you're making sure the circadian rhythms are right. You get locked into compulsive patterns. Rituals are important. Routine is important. But if you do them to like the nth degree, it turns into something that is compulsive. Mm-hmm. And it starts to get like a weird little control mechanism where you almost get like addicted and attached and experience anxiety if you don't have those routines. And I think it depletes from life force energy. Mm-hmm. Novelty is just that injection of newness. We're experiencing it right now. We just moved to Sedona. And as much as I love where we come from, I fucking loved Southern California. Yeah. The novelty has been just a huge shot in the arm for my life in general. My own curiosity. I was feeling like I was getting quite bored, and I'm a Gemini, so that's pretty natural because I need stimulation and I like to switch things up and move things around. But really, really important to interject novelty. And the thing about novelty is like you expose yourself to new things and then you get to decide what you want to maintain, what you want to keep or bring home into your routines, and what you want to leave behind, and then open up space for newness elsewhere. Mm-hmm. And the same principle applies to relationship. In fact, men cheat oftentimes because of a lack of novelty, and they're really driven on being motivated and inspired by something. And novelty oftentimes is that carrot that dangled in front of them becomes very interesting. Yeah. And so in the dynamic of a relationship, whether it's novelty in the bedroom, whether it's where you live, whether it's exposing yourself to new experiences or even new food and travel, it's just a vital nutrient.
I think it's just a human nutrient. And when you are sharing your life with someone, a partner or a spouse, I think it almost intensifies because I think when you inject novelty into your relationship together, one of you has to come up with the idea, right? And so it's like it reminds you and your partner that you're constantly looking for new experiences together. And, when you think of a new hike or a new something, like it doesn't have to be complicated. Like last week.
No, microdose novelty. Yeah.
Last week, we took our dinner into some Tupperware and drove up to a park and watched the sunset as we ate our dinner over this like beautiful mountainside. It cost $0. It wasn't, crazy complicated.
Yeah, we should do that tonight.
But what it does, other than just the like lovely experience that we had and created a memory and went on a beautiful walk at sunset, it also reminds me that like you're looking for new experiences for us because it's important to you, because we are important to you. And so it's just this, even if it's subconscious, it's just this
really
little
good
reminder that like my partner values this relationship and finding new adventures with me.
Yeah.
So she gives some tips on how to try to keep the love alive in this area. Plan playful and unpredictable dates for each other. Verbalize your love and appreciation often. Do something once a week that your partner wants to do. Pursue a common interest or hobby together. Share kinks and fantasies to spice up your sex life. Remember, it's normal for long-term relationships to feel stagnant every now and then. Of course, we all go through cycles.
Don't blame your partner. Like your life, everybody's own life gets boring every now and then.
Sure.
It's easy when you're in a relationship to blame your partner for it instead of just unbiasedly evaluating where you can interject novelty. Love it. Next one, they say built up resentment. So built up resentment can fuck up a relationship. Resentment is often a result of allowing core parts of ourselves to be ignored or lost within the relationship. When this happens repeatedly or over a period of time, it erodes relationships. Try this to keep the love alive. Learn to say no, set healthy boundaries, and state your needs clearly and regularly without waiting till resentment builds up. Maintain your individuality within the relationship. Have a little ritual to break up with your resentment. Write down your resentments on a piece of paper and burn them or release them.
Yeah, I feel this one deeply. And this is like a life lesson that I've like had to learn. That it was like one of my soul's lessons on learning how to state your feelings and needs in a healthy and productive way. When we were married, I didn't have the communication tools to do that. And I was brought up in such a way where, I was basically told not to be too much feelings, too much talking, too much of anything. And you just kind of like get into this little mode where I just don't want to make someone mad. I don't want to upset people. And so I had built up this pattern of not sharing my real thoughts and feelings. And I would just eat them, basically, just shove them down in our relationship. And it built up to such a degree that I was in a very, very low place. And you had no idea because, well, maybe you had some idea, but you could tell there was something wrong, but I was not sharing it with you willingly. And it created a lot of problems in our relationship. So I know this one intimately. And the way to not build up resentments is to know what you need, know what you feel, and learn how to communicate those needs and feelings in a healthy and productive way to your partner. I don't see any other way to not build up resentment. That's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, it's really good. The only thing I would add to that is sometimes the antidote is promising yourself that you will take responsibility for what you are contributing to the feeling of resentment. Because sometimes, yes, your partner's not pulling their weight in the relationship, and it's like legitimately easy to build up resentment for that very reason. But other times, piggybacking on what I said earlier about novelty, where you just might start blaming your partner because you haven't looked in the mirror and taken an inventory of your own life and where you can actually start to make your life better and the relationship better, but you're not doing it. And so what's easier, instead of just actually looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, oh, fuck, I'm dropping the ball, is to just go, well, I'm not happy, so must be my partner's fault. And that's where, and then you start scorekeeping and you're counting all of the different ways that they're dropping the ball, or as you've often said, they're taking a test that they're completely unaware of and failing because they're unaware that they're taking that test. And so, yeah, I think resentment is one that can be avoided by clear communication and a lot of accountability to oneself as it pertains to what you're responsible for in the relationship.
Mm-hmm. And last thing I'll say is I think building up resentment is one of the quickest ways to lose sexual spark.
Of course.
It's like every time you have a resentment, it's like building up a wall in front of that yoni.
Yeah, especially for a girl. Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. All right. Number 3, growing in different directions. Remember, these are 4 ways that people fall out of love. I think growing in different directions, it's really common we hear about this all the time. But she says it's common for 2 people in a relationship to change in ways that aren't aligned anymore. Their values, dreams, and priorities change. In such an instance, we may need to evaluate if we want to stay in the relationship or let go of it with love and respect. We hear about this often. Oftentimes it comes to us in a question, hey, I'm really into spirituality, or I'm really invested in health and wellness, or I'm really, I've been deep in a self-development journey and my partner like could give 2 shits about it. What do I do? How do I get them enrolled? And we've answered that question many times. So it is really common. I think the thing to highlight here is that depending on how this plays out, you can be on 2 different paths and still have an amazing relationship. For instance, say I'm really into spirituality and loving it and loving self-development, and maybe you're not, but say you're really into your work, your career. We can be on 2 separate paths and still come back together and have enough shared interests, values, and priorities, maybe when it comes to health or our children or whatever, where we can still build a really great life. So I just want to put that out there, that just because you have different interests than your partner doesn't mean that the relationship is doomed.
Yeah, I would almost edit this to say, instead of growing in different directions, I would just say going in different directions, because if you're both growing in some way, shape, or form, I actually think there's a huge opportunity for that to be something that brings you closer. Mm-hmm. If the thing behind the thing, the real core value of all of this is personal growth and evolution, whether that's through the pathway of spirituality, whether that's through the pathway of your career, or being a better parent, or being in better physical shape through your health. I think a strong relationship can totally be fine with the differences if the underlying component is growth. Mm-hmm. But when someone's growing and another person is staying stagnant, or someone's growing and someone's going downhill, that's where the problem lies.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. I think the thing also to star is, if you are both growing and having different interests, you cannot judge or dog each other.
Yeah.
You must, in order to like keep the relationship really thriving, be interested in your partner's interests just because they're your partner's interests. So like, I'm not going to bombard you with all the things that I'm into without asking you like, hey, what's going on in your business? Like, tell me, catch me up to speed. What's happening? What are you excited about? Be interested in it. And, don't degrade your partner just for having different interests. I think that is absolutely key.
Yeah. My brother and his wife, they do this so well. Like, my brother likes golfing, and he enjoys watching golf, learning about golf, practicing, going and playing, and he doesn't do it an ungodly amount, but he does it because it's fun for him and he's interested in doing it. And his wife is like super supportive of it, and also like borderline interested enough to know the vocabulary of it, ask how he was playing. It might be something specific to the way that he plays that she's tuned in on, but she doesn't play. Mm-hmm. She's not like trying to obsess over it, nor does she bust his balls like so many like mainstream relationships where like, oh, he's going out golfing with the boys, and there's like a naggy like fucking annoyance to it all. Yeah. And he does the same thing for her in other domains as well. And that's just a great example of how simple it can be. It doesn't need to be this like huge issue in a relationship. I think it's just like, oh wow, you're growing and you're interested and you're finding purpose and passion into something because of that, and because of the fact that I love you, I'm going to take some interest in it. I don't need to participate in it, but I need to support you with it, and not
at the very least
discount it.
Yeah,
it's easy to be insecure about the fact that your partner is all of a sudden on a physical wellness journey, and start to like discredit them or talk shit about the people that they're listening to or the books that they're reading.
Yeah, So she says some tips for keeping the love alive in this area. Find common ground. Is there anything to hold the relationship together meaningfully? Accept that not every relationship is meant to last a lifetime. Know that it's possible for two good people to grow in different directions and stay together or not. Explore a different way to preserve the relationship. This may or may not be desirable, but I think really good stuff. All right.
Yeah.
Rounding third with number 4.
Destructive communication. People who fall out of love will often first fall out of communication. Passive-aggressive communication, lack of attention, stonewalling, and consistent criticism are some common relationship killers. Try this to keep the love alive. Always strive to speak life into one another. Strive to communicate with respect, even when you're angry or frustrated. Communicate even when it's hard and uncomfortable. Remember that every disagreement is not an argument. Really good one. I think that destructive communication is oftentimes the byproduct of a more upstream issue, but it is the communication that can make or break whether that upstream issue causes the separation or the complete brokenness of the relationship. And so I don't know if it's as much, it could be a cause, but like I do rarely think that it's just like out of the blue communication versus it's just a downstream flooding of an upstream problem. And so totally agree. Having a container, which we talk about so much for having challenging conversations, is critically important when it comes to being able to communicate things that are hard, but then also just being in a habit of like positive communication, compliments, you know, positive reinforcement, encouragement. Those things are underrated like crazy. And a lot of us come from households and from environments where people withheld encouragement and compliments for God knows what reason. But it's not like a normal habit for us. And so I think being able to just not only set the proper environment for having difficult conversations that can potentially salvage a relationship, but also making it a habit, making it a muscle to put forth positive language into the relationship dynamic is important as well. I mean, even last night you called me on something that I was being negative about, and I was like, fuck. You're right. And it's like, it's an inconvenient truth sometimes, but like being positive is usually not the wrong answer.
Right. I like that she said, remember that every disagreement is not an argument.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's so good. And it's something that, you know, like you and I, we don't like really fight. But we do have disagreements all the time, whether it was about a situation or like, I mean, not every day, but
get
like, yeah, I get it. But it's not like it's every day, but like, yeah, neither one of us is afraid at this point. Going back to my life, one of my life lessons is like, no, you need to speak here. Do it lovingly, but you need to speak.
Yeah.
Neither one of us is afraid to speak our mind. We do our absolute best to do it in a loving and productive way.
Yeah.
Or at least healthy and productive. It may not always feel loving in the moment, but the point is not to go this way. The point is when you have a disagreement, you're here, I'm here, and it's like, we want to go this way. So, you know, if this is something that you struggle with, obviously we've talked a lot about it on this podcast, communication, and it's how important it is. I would look into the books Queen's Code by Alison Armstrong, From the Core by John Wineland, The Awakened Woman's Guide to Everlasting Love by London Angel Winters. What else would you say for communication specifically?
For the dudes out there, David Deda's Way of the Superior Man is like the Bible for masculinity and being able to communicate directly, which is kind of the masculine ability should you hone it.
Yeah.
So I would definitely throw that one in there.
Cool. All right. Awesome stuff. All right. Last appetizer segment here. This is Chase's favorite.
It's my favorite.
It's our most shallow, but also most entertaining.
The times are tough, but the memes are easy. Oh my God, that's a very long button.
That's a long one.
These aren't memes, right? Like we're not actually showing any pictures, but this thing has evolved on the interwebs where people's just funny quotes funny little statements are memeified. And so
it
that's
also
what we're doing.
like, it gives Chase and I purpose when we are, on Instagram or whatever, and we're scrolling and we see something funny, instead of just laughing to ourselves or sending it to each other. Now we have a purpose where we're like, all right, we got to save this for the show because it's fun.
All right. I've got 6 of them today, so I won't be as long.
Okay.
Long in the tooth, they say.
Do you know what that means?
It's like getting old or something. Yeah.
Hashtag recession. All right. I'll start. Can't seem to sleep. Let's see if the bright light of my phone containing all the information in the entire world held inches away from my face for the next 15 minutes to lull me into a peaceful slumber.
Oh, Jesus. 1 milkshake to bring all the boys to the yard and in the darkness bind them. I love this one so much.
The one-hit wonder Khalees. My son wouldn't stop asking if he could have some goldfish. My wife finally got fed up and yelled, "A few!" But my son thought she said, "F you." And it made him really upset. I probably shouldn't have laughed.
I don't blame the parents on that one. Kid needs to figure it out. What's the word for horny, but not in a sexual way? Like, I'm horny for Halloween, but I don't want to fuck a pumpkin. Do you mean excited?
Yeah. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's the response.
Oh, yeah,
Do you mean excited?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. When I said I'm open to feedback, I meant you could give me a compliment. Some Leo shit.
This one also in the season of Halloween. Oh, didn't you know? Spirit Halloween shoots their employees out back November 1st.
They shoot them?
I thought it was kind of funny.
It's kind of morbid.
I know. Well, it's Halloween.
You ever just want to tell somebody mid-conversation, "Hey, I don't care"?
Yeah, that's my life. Yeah. In Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Dumbledore calls Voldemort by his birth name, Tom. This foreshadows the fact that J.K. Rowling does not respect people's chosen identities. For context, Joe Rowling is kind of a very outspoken against not being transgender as much as just identifying as a woman, and then like being able to, or feeling like you have the right to access women's bathrooms. And
she's just trying to protect biological women.
Right.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
Okay, but imagine if spiders screamed when you found them. That would actually be really helpful.
Yeah.
I guess if you already found them, but it made me laugh thinking about a tiny spider like,
I love the Halloween themes here. I do not, quote, have PTSD. That is all just what I call the wizard's curse. The wizard is my father, but that's not relevant.
What?
Isn't that a better way to say, like, you've got like trauma from your parents, but you just say, I've got a wizard's curse and my father's the wizard. He put a curse on me.
Yeah, my parents with the childhood trauma. Yeah, totally. I wonder how fed up someone had to be to make deodorant.
The American healthcare system is actually perfect if you're a healthy person with no teeth or eyes.
Oh, wow. Oh, geez. We didn't think everyone was going to bring a bag. Signed the airlines.
Yeah, God damn it.
I wish I could Google search my own mind and just type in stuff like, what are my favorite movies? Or what was the name of the place with the really good egg rolls?
That just sums up our culture right there.
Yeah.
Like wanting instant gratification from ourselves. Even.
I've thought that though. Like, why can't I just remember which movies I've said I wanted to watch?
Yeah, it's kind of like, I wish I could lift this heavy thing. Well, you have to work out and be in shape to do so. So you have to
You're really
actually use your
me.
freaking brain to be
really
able to
hating on my face. Okay. I've thought this so many times. Okay. I feel very validated. There is no physical evidence to say that today is Tuesday. We all just have to trust that someone kept count since the first one ever.
This is the fabric of what we call reality. It's all consensus reality. Nothing is actually real.
Yeah, we were all just like making an agreement.
I was saying the other day, like,
what if half the world was like, no, today's Saturday, and they're like, no, it's Thursday.
Right. I was saying the other day, like, when they're counting years, like, at what point were they like,
Let's start.
let's start?
Yeah.
Or was there, a group of decision makers that were sitting around a table one time and they're like, we better start counting this shit.
Yeah.
Who's the oldest in this room?
What do you remember?
You're going to be one. I'm like, that's going to be one. I don't know. I don't know how it happened.
Man.
It bothers me.
Things we'll never know.
Okay, moving on to the entree. Let's bring out that steamy dish.
Oh.
Wow. Misjudgment by you. All right. First question. These are from real listeners, real viewers of YouTube. If you're loving the show, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're moving more and more content to YouTube. Give us a like on this video. And if you feel compelled or pressured or guilted by me, please comment, ask a question. We'll put that question maybe into an episode.
Yeah.
Give us some feedback. If you disagree with us, tell us we're full of shit. I don't care, but I love seeing those comments.
Yep. We answer all of them.
First question. Marriage in modern day society. Do you believe in it? How have your views changed over time? If you were to get married, what would you want that to look like? Well, we did recently just get remarried, and we've technically been married twice.
Yes.
So I think we have a pretty good collection of experiences to answer this.
Yes. She says, marriage in modern day society, do you believe in it? Yes, I believe in the idea of committing yourself to one person who you really love. I don't necessarily think that the government needs to give us permission. Like when we got married again, well, both times, but most recently, it was kind of a hassle to like get all the paperwork and the, licensing and all of that stuff. It was just like, okay, why do you need to be involved in our relationship? I understand for tax purposes and stuff like that, but why do we need a license to get married? Just look us up, make sure that we're not brother and sister, make sure that neither one of us are married, and, we're good to go. So I don't think that the government should necessarily be involved. I think that if two people love each other and want to be married to each other, I think that can look different for every person. We had a very not traditional wedding the first time, but we did a lot of we had a big crowd and we had all the things. We had a reception and a cake and we had all the normal wedding things, and it was great. Loved it. The second time around, the one big change that we wanted to make was, this is just about us. This is just about me and you. No one was even invited to our wedding. And it was great.
Yeah.
It was really meaningful. Paul Check was our officiant, if you want to call it that. We had a marriage ceremony together, and it was one of the best days of my life, honestly. No one was there but us, and it was beautiful. What was missing the first time was a spiritual connection. Mm-hmm. And so that was the main focus this time around. So, yes, I believe in the idea and institution of marriage, of committing yourself to one person. What would you want that to look like? We created it for ourselves. And I think everyone should just create what they want. To me, some of the traditions are kind of dumb. Mm-hmm. They really are.
Yeah. Oh, it's just marketing.
And how much
it's a sales funnel
people spend on weddings is insane. Yeah. It's insane. If you want to do that, cool, go ahead. But I think a lot of people feel pressured to do that, where a lot of time, energy, and effort and money is, spent on the day, and way less on what is your marriage and life together actually going to look like?
Yeah.
So I think that it's important to really, spend a good amount of time on values and communication and what is our life together going to look like, more so than just the party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You kind of hit all the points. Do I believe in it? I believe that it's a thing. I don't align with the legal rationale for getting married, but because you got to play by the rules in life for the most part, we did. And there's a tax advantage to it. There's also an advantage of like we're having a child and we want to share certain legal responsibilities across each other without having to use a lawyer, and inheritance and all these kind of things that make the unfortunate regulatory environment a little bit of a necessity, just to or not even a necessity, it just eases a few things. But I don't align with the rationale there. I don't align with marriage, the wedding industry, it's marketing, it's a sales funnel, it's ungodly amounts of money. It's pressuring women, especially at an early age, that it's going to be the most beautiful day of your life. And take it, for instance, the first look that happens during weddings. It's the most inauthentic thing I've ever seen in my freaking life. I could barely, it's such a snapshot of who I am, because I had such a hard time doing it because it was inauthentic. I just don't have the ability to conjure up oh wow, amazing.
Feels like a performance.
It's a performance. And there's 1,000 of those during the normal course of what a mainstream wedding and marriage ceremony should look like. So those kind of things grind my gear. That being said, there's some fun shit. I love weddings. I love going to weddings. I love dancing. I love, connecting with other human beings. I love being a part of a wedding party where, it just feels like your best homies are celebrating love together. Mm-hmm. And I loved that for our, pretty traditional wedding in the sense that we checked the box on most things. But the spiritual component of being married is something that doesn't need any of that. It doesn't need the law. It doesn't need a pastor. It doesn't need, a religious.
We don't even have
We
rings.
don't have wedding rings. But it is the spiritual commitment to learn with each other,
work on
your shit together, to understand God and love in a more profound way through the act of committed partnership. And those things are really beautiful to me. And so, that's kind of my definition of marriage at this point. And I think it does include a commitment for, in our case, monogamy and exclusivity with the no triads, no triads, no quads, just a dual relationship. And so I think there's some importance as it pertains to clearly identifying what you're getting married for and what that actually means if you're going to participate. But don't think it's necessity necessarily. Mm-hmm. And so, that we did get married, and it was incredible. Remarried.
Mm-hmm. All right, next question. I'll leave this one anonymous.
Which we've been leaving all of them.
I know.
Okay.
I know. I just never know if people want their names read or not. But this one, I think she probably would want anonymous. All right. How do you deal with trust being broken in a relationship? My partner and I have been together since we were 17. We have dealt with infidelity, but shared a very profound awakening while on a plant medicine ceremony, and realized what we need to work on and how we need to show up for ourselves in the relationship. We also felt strongly that we are here to work through our soul contract to not repeat the same patterns of karma. It has been quite the journey, and I'm curious if you two have ever dealt with any sort of infidelity. How do you rebuild the trust, confidence, etc.? Even if you haven't, I'm curious to hear what you think. Well, We've dealt with all of these things, getting together very young, being together for a long time, dealing with infidelity, trust, and knowing that we are meant to be together and we're here to work through our shit together, having very real realizations in that regard. So, when she says have you had any experience with any of this? It's yeah, that's our exact story almost. And so, we don't need to necessarily get into the nitty bitty details. We don't need to get into all the details, but just, yes, we've dealt with this, in our first marriage. I was at a very, very low place and was unfaithful, and it was just a really hard time for both of us and myself, and we divorced for 3 years. And when we got back together, this was obviously one of the like major conversations that we needed to have. And we did, and we were able to work through it. And I'll let you speak to your own experience, but when she asks, how do you rebuild the trust and confidence, etc., I can only speak from my perspective, my point of view as someone who's like coming back into the relationship and basically like feeling like I need to prove myself. I need to prove that I'm fucking in this. And so when we got back together, I made it very clear that like whatever you need, whatever the relationship needs, I'm willing to do. And you're worth it to me. And I'm willing to work on this however we need to. And I'm not interested in being with anyone else. And I made it very, very clear that I was fully invested into the health and growth of the relationship. So I think that's something that can't be overlooked, because if the person who was unfaithful comes back into the relationship and they don't have that attitude, like whatever you need, you're worth it to me. Like I'm going to do this. And they're sending mixed messages, or you're just not really sure about their commitment level, that's not a good sign. I think for it to work, you need to be fully invested and committed to the health and growth of the relationship, no matter what the other person needs. Like they're kind of in the driver's seat with like, what does it look like? What do you need from me to rebuild this trust? So that's my perspective. And I just made it very clear at the beginning that the only thing I can do to like prove myself is to just keep showing up and to keep reminding you that like, I'm fucking in this. And I'm going to do whatever we need to do to make this work, because I don't want to be with anyone else. So that's my point of view.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Not my favorite
headspace
to be in.
I've been avoiding these types of questions just because it's like, it's not fun to talk about.
Yeah, no, it's not fun to talk about. It's the most difficult thing I've ever had to deal with in my entire life. And I have no interest in like making you feel bad about it. Here we are, 8 years later. So with all of that, also trying to, help this person, we had the advantage of getting divorced immediately after I found out about it and spending 3 years apart. And there's a scale of infidelity. There's like, I kissed somebody, and then there's, you're gone all the time and absent, and I developed a relationship with somebody else. And that's almost sometimes like understandable, and then there's like outright just brutal shit. And those are the ones that are really hard to process, digest. I would say that I would imagine it's easier when someone comes forth with a desire to tell the truth, and it's like weighing on them so much that they have to just like get it off their chest. It's harder. I think that's a better starting point to work through infidelity than the other person finding out. Mm-hmm. That is such a painful experience that you have to have gone through it to know. And then so for me and the way that I processed all of this, I had 3 years of being alone, absolutely no closure with you whatsoever, not even a mention of it. We split up with you not knowing that I knew, with me not bringing up to you that I knew. And I just had to sit on it and figure out what to do with it, which took every cycle of denial, rage, anger, revenge. But ultimately, I just found myself in this position that was like, what am I doing this for? What am I torturing myself for? There were lessons to be learned. There was pain that was had. But what am I going to just allow myself to just keep an open wound for the rest of my life? And so prior to having any awareness that we were going to get back together, and I would say to this person, prior to any contemplation of your future with your significant other, how is your wound? Like, are you addressing the wound? Are you working on healing that wound? You don't need that person to heal the wound. You don't. And in fact, I didn't. I got to the place that I felt like I was capable of living the rest of my life with this healed wound that didn't include a ton of bitterness and a desire for revenge and deep anger, shame, emasculation. The list goes on and on. And so take some time to even just ideate as to whether or not you can heal on your own. And to me, I just got to this place where I was like, I am not going to live the rest of my life with a limp. This makes absolutely no sense. It's not logical. This is a low vibration way of living. And so for me, it took an act of constant meditation upon forgiveness and moving on, regardless of what you were able to do or not do, because we had no relationship at that time. And so I chose to move on. I chose forgiveness. And I didn't feel it for a while, but slowly and surely, with a real meditative practice, with specific changes in my life to where I just decided to lighten the load and not carry this thing into my relationships and my conversations and my workplace, I slowly but surely got to this point where I was like really thriving. And although it was still there, like I felt like the wound had closed up to a certain degree. And, sure enough, that's when we got, about the time we got back together. And so by no means was I like, oh, I'm in the clear. We should be fine. I think you were able to, if we're going to continue with this metaphor, add some like ointment to the scar, and the scar tissue was lessened, and the healing, started to take place even more so that the scar was significantly less visible. But I don't know if it ever goes away. And because we've had, 5-6 years now together in part 2, and we've been through a lot as it pertains to closing this wound, it's not that I don't trust you at all. I trust you more than anything in the whole world. And it's not that you've ever given me, it's not that I was like, you need to do the following things in order to get back into trust with me. I just chose to trust. And then you've done absolutely nothing but, hit home runs as it pertains to being trustworthy. So that's actually not problematic to me. So if this person's in a relationship with someone who's cheated on them and they've worked through it to a certain degree and are seeing no signs or no evidence or don't have that like, man, I can't trust this person type feeling, don't put yourself through hell.
Yeah. If you don't see any red flags, don't create them.
No.
Yeah.
But I would also say that just because you trust your partner now doesn't mean that trust won't be a problem for you in other lanes of your life. So for me, we've had literally no trust issues in part 2, but I have a hard time trusting anything, anybody, myself. And so the fuck for me has been that I have a serious wound on the machinery that allows me an ability to trust things.
Yeah, on the trust button.
And so it's every lane of my life. It's every person that gets close to me where I go, oh, I don't know. I can't let this person get close. I don't trust my own decisions at times. I have, as we've started a family quite literally and thought about that, these things resurfaced. As you change, the way that you perceive those wounds becomes different. You see perspectives and angles of it that hurt more at 34 than they did at 29 when we got back together. And then I get, your meat suit doesn't forget. So you get things like dreams that are just takes you right back into the pain. Or you do a plant medicine ceremony, and for whatever reason, the experiential wave of what that felt like comes back to you, and you just are in such pain for your younger self. And it's like, I have no interest in putting that in front of your face, because that would be horrible. And it's just a terrible way to live, is to like remind you of this, while it also is still something inside of me that I have to address and deal with. And it's a very weird thing. And I'm sure this person can relate, where you've had something traumatic happen to you, and it's something that you have to, even if you've cleared it to a certain degree, readdress at some point in your life, because it'll come back up. It's hard not to share that with your best friend, your confidant, your the person that you love the most because they were the one who participated in that wound. And so it's a very weird thing. And so that's something I have to navigate. There's been times where I do share with you and you're just really incredible about it. And other times where I just go like, not worth it. I'm just going to ride this one out and just keep going. But ultimately for me, it's like, it's such a rational, easy decision because I'm able to evaluate the just sheer logics of the fact that we have a thriving, healthy relationship. I love you more than anything. You love me more than anything, and have all the evidence in the world to support that. There is no reason for me to fuck up any of that by bringing this stuff back up. It didn't when we got back together, and it doesn't now. And so the challenge I have for this individual is just like, I don't think you need to work on trusting your partner if they're giving you evidence that you should trust them, because you've chosen trust in this reconciliation. And the best way to live your life is to live as if you fully trust them, because that is what you will manifest, is a partner who is trustworthy. But that doesn't mean it won't bleed into other spots of your life. And so be aware of your patterns, be aware of the loop of not being able to trust. When those moments come up where you're trying to protect yourself because you are concerned for maybe sabotage or something along those lines, and just be conscious of it. But there's not a quick answer. It's like it gets better at times, and then it weirdly like shows up. And
I'll have those moments like, yeah, the wound is like healed, but there's still a scar there for both of us in different ways. And I'll have those moments too, where I'm just like in a moment of just pure adoration and love for you. And it can be like a really happy moment where we're like giggling and having a great time and being silly together. And I'll get a wave of sadness, knowing that I love you so much and I hurt you so much. So like holding both things, it's almost like I'm seeing another person, it was me, it was a version of me, but like, it's like I'm watching another person hurt you. And it just, in those moments, like, you know, I've had it overwhelm me to the point of tears. And it's just such a fucking weird thing to try to explain. And there's no like quick answer. I will say we didn't do this. This wasn't a thing for us because the way that you handled it and the way that I carry myself in our relationship now. But if she needs, assuming that it was dude guy, I don't know if it was her or if it was him, but say it was him. If she needs whatever she needs, if she needs more communication when he's out with the boys or whatever, in order to like fully let go of that fear of it happening again. I don't know the circumstances again, but like you're entitled to tell your partner, okay, if we're moving forward, I'm going to be really honest about like, here's what I need from you in order to fully let go of that fear or that wound. And it's going to be different for every person. We didn't really have that conversation of like specifics, but other people might need that depending on what the circumstances are.
If you've got a serial, once a cheater, always a cheater, which can apply in many, many cases, I think those are important.
Yeah.
If you're with someone who's got an actual like sexual addiction, right?
Sure.
Like there are boundaries that their lack of impulse control will not be able to overcome on their own. That the boundaries need to be in place if you want to be in the relationship. Right. From my seat, it was kind of like, yo, you want to do this or not? I'm doing this, irrationally doing this, and I'm balls out, meaning I'm gonna give balls out trust with the like it is that irrationality that has made this become the most catalyzing opportunity that I could have ever imagined for a relationship. Like, you want to talk about love, transcend this.
Yeah, and I felt the weight of that. I felt the weight of what you just said, like that choice to I'm just going to trust you. Like, that has some weight in the world. Because
you build up resentment if I'm giving you a rules list. I think it might work for a minute, but eventually you're like, Jesus Christ, why am I doing this?
Sure. I think it depends on the situation and the details or whatever, but like it was like I had this beautiful gift and I just wanted to like nurture it and take care of it to the best of my ability. And I wasn't going to fuck it up for anything. So I knew how blessed I was to have you back in my life. And I knew that I was the best thing for you.
And I think there was ownership on both of our, and during our reconciliation, there was ownership in what led to the deterioration of the relationship. Like,
you don't just wake up one day and think, I'm going to do this. This sounds fun.
No. Now there's there's a lot of scorekeeping that we've chosen not to do. But what I took ownership on was not being able to interpret the feedback that you were giving me and make choices to respond that would have potentially kept you from whatever, doing the things that happened. I'm not interested in saying, it was 50-50 or not, because I don't necessarily agree with that. But I definitely think it was important for our part two, for me not to live or make you think that it was all your fault, or live as if it was all your fault, because there was equity in what led to this that had everything to do with my ownership of.
Yeah. And I'm definitely not saying like, oh yeah, it was 50-50. My point is that most people don't just wake up and think, this sounds like a fun thing to do today, I'm going to do it. It's usually like small little incremental things. And I think that's an important part of the conversation to have for these people, is like getting to like the root of like, why? What was the thing? Well, it's the thing behind the thing here. Because if you don't understand that, what's to say it won't happen again, So I think that that's part of a healthy conversation, is like giving the person space to explain, like, where were you at when this happened? Like, psychologically, like what was happening in your inner world? How do we take steps to prevent that in the future? So, hopefully that helps.
Not easy question.
No, honestly, it's we've had a few of these, rebuilding trust questions after infidelity or whatever, and I've just been avoiding them because it's not fun to talk about. Right. But I understand that it's important and that a lot of people deal with this. So if we, shedding a little light on our experience and how we've worked through it helps another couple, great.
Yeah.
Ending on a lighter note, you want to read the last question here?
Last question. How do I make time for my own interests when we live together?
This is a good question.
Great question for like if you just newly moved in with someone, or you're newly married and you're like, wait, who am I now?
Or, we've been together for half of our life and we still, find ways to pursue our own interests. Now, that being said, we're best friends. We love basically doing everything together. So I think, if this is you, have a conversation with your partner and have something specific that you're wanting to engage in. So like, what do you mean by interests? Come up with at least like one or two that you can use as examples with your partner. So instead of being like, I just want to pursue my own interests, if you're talking to your partner, they might be like, WTF, like, what does that mean? If you're like, hey, love spending time with you. And I'm noticing that I'm just wanting to pursue painting a little bit more. So, this is just an example, but like in the evening, instead of watching TV, I'm going to just, lean into my painting a little bit more.
Right.
And it's something that I really find a lot of value in, and I feel so good when I do it. And I'm just getting this intuitive nudge that I really want to lean into it more. And it's really like fulfilling and nourishing for me. So I think that that's a way better way to explain. You're making it about your experience rather than like, I'm not getting enough from us spending time together, or you're not exciting enough for me, or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think those are great. And a really simple, hack, if you want to call it this, is think about and then have a conversation with your partner around, where are those dedicated spaces for me time or independence. I think a really easy way to do that is to dedicate your mornings to yourself.
Yeah.
Most of the time. You and I have completely independent morning routines. And that is where I exercise on my own. Today I went for a hike on my own. Once or twice a week, we might actually do the same thing together in the morning. A lot of times it's the weekend, and that's what makes the weekend kind of fun. You know, you're reading a lot of times in the morning. You maybe might, be journaling. I'm doing yoga. There's different activities that we participate in that are very much our own and fill up our own cup. And I think that's something that you can easily, we've had conversations about it. Like, oh yeah, this is good for us, to have this independent time. And then when you do choose to do something together, it does feel special. I think the other piece would be just having an awareness that whether it's on a monthly basis or weekly, if you need to, or quarterly, like there is not only the interest, but I would say it's good for you to participate in something social that doesn't include your significant other. Like, hey, I'm going, like many, many times you've gone to a girls event
or something,
or I'm going to walk with my buddy Will and we're going to just shoot the shit about business and you just do fucking guy stuff or whatever. It's like weirdly like scratching the back of your masculinity and femininity to be able to participate in those kind of things and look at them as if they are nutrients that you can only get away from your significant other so that you can come back more whole, more full to the relationship. And so a little hack on this is just like leave enough space in the relationship so that you can even figure out what your interests are. Yeah. It is those 3 or 4 hours in the morning that sometimes I'm actually just trying to figure out what I want to do. That is the important exercise to go through.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree. I think that's a great answer. Hopefully that helps. Well, we've arrived at the dessert of the meal, and we always end with a crazy story. This one is a fun one. It's a travel story. Chase has not heard this yet. I went to a Finnish sauna somewhere in the middle of nowhere in Finland because I wanted the real experience, not the touristy stuff. No one spoke English, and Finnish looks like made-up words to me. Everyone was completely naked except for a teeny towel you were supposed to sit on. It wasn't large enough to cover anything up. This is an authentic Finnish sauna. So I mustered all of my courage. This is a girl, by the way.
Wow, good for her.
So I mustered all of my courage and went into one of the 3 bungalows. As soon as I opened the door, I realized this wasn't right. About 15 very drunk men and women holding beers were sitting in this tiny sauna house. Since everyone stared at me standing in the open doorway naked, I decided to go for it and just go in. I figured it would have been weird to mumble sorry and disappear. As soon as I sat down, the naked guy next to me started talking. After realizing I don't speak the language, he switched to English. So how do you know Micah? Huh? Who? Well, Micah, it's his birthday. Oh, shit. So I started getting up to leave as I didn't want to crash a naked party, a birthday party of a stranger. But the guy next to me had already called Micah over to introduce me. Before I could even apologize for crashing and making my excuses, Micah had already pulled me into a massive welcome hug. Yep, you read that right. I got a hug from a very naked, very sweaty, very large Finnish dude in the middle of nowhere, Finland, while being buck naked as well. For context, I'm a pretty petite girl. He put a beer in my hand, invited me to join the party, and that was certainly one of my more weird experiences while traveling. Love the Finns, though. Haha.
That is absolutely hilarious.
Can you imagine? I mean, I don't know what I would have done. Opening that door and just seeing a bunch of like naked men and women with a beer in hand. You're like, oh.
Very Burning Man.
Yeah,
for sure.
Like
I'm pretty sure I hugged a naked person at Burning Man at least once.
It is like very alarming when you're just like, it's not part of your culture at all.
Right. Yeah, no, the first Burning Man, I guess the only Burning Man we went to, but there are times where you get used to it by the end of the week where you're just used to seeing like, dicks and pussies. But there is that kind of moment where you're trying to act normal in front of a naked person. And you're like, oh yeah, okay,
yeah.
totally. Yeah. I mean, moral of the story for me is if you are going to be naked somewhere, make sure you have a very specific map, direction, orientation, agenda before you put forth your naked self in front of a bunch of strangers.
Yeah, I would say the moral of the story for me is always travel with a friend.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, like that,
Or a spare
that
pair of
situation,
underwear.
that situation could have ended a lot differently. It's great that Micah was happy and nice.
Yeah.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode. All of our appetizers and entree and our little dessert story. If you guys liked the episode and you feel called or guilted, please send it to someone you love or leave us a comment. We always love seeing what you guys have to say. And especially if you have experience with one of the questions that we got asked, we would love to hear from you as well. We will talk to you next time. Go spread some light. Okay, bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening.
If you enjoyed that, check out right over here for some more fun clips.
Oh, and you're going to want to subscribe.
Bye.